All right, let's dive into this. You Can Heal Your Life. It's sold like over 30 million copies. It's really got me thinking about, just how powerful our thoughts are and, how they kind of shape our reality. Have you ever thought about that? Like how your thoughts could actually like be impacting your health and happiness.
It's a fascinating concept, isn't it? Like, uh, the kind of the central philosophy of Louise Hay is that life is like really simple. What we give out, we get back. It's like this universal boomerang effect. Like whatever you're putting out into the world, whether it's positive or negative, it's coming back to you.
Okay, so break that down for me a bit. Like, what is she saying? Our thoughts are like seeds, and then the experiences we have are the fruits of those seeds.
Exactly. Think of it this way: if you constantly tell yourself, "I'm not good enough," you're basically planting seeds of self-doubt. And those seeds are eventually going to grow into experiences that confirm that belief, right? But the good news is that we can choose to plant different seeds. Seeds of, self-love, confidence, abundance.
That's interesting, but what about like the stuff that we learn growing up? You know, those messages that we get from our families or society that maybe aren't so positive.
Yeah, Hay acknowledges that a lot of our beliefs, are formed in childhood. We kind of absorb messages from our environment, often unconsciously,
Mhm.
and they become ingrained in our subconscious mind. She even uses the analogy of a computer program. It's like running in the background,
Mm.
influencing our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors.
So it's like we're running on outdated software that's no longer serving us.
Yes. And Hayes very clear that we shouldn't blame our parents or, anyone else for these ingrained patterns. They too were likely operating from their own, learned limitations. Instead, she really focuses on empowering us to recognize these patterns and rewrite the code, so to speak.
Okay, but where do we even start with that? It feels like some of these beliefs are just so deeply rooted.
Well, Hay believes that the first step is forgiveness. She makes this very bold statement. All disease comes from a state of unforgiveness. Now, she's not just talking about physical illness here. She's talking about any form of imbalance or discomfort in our lives, um, emotional, mental, even
Or
spiritual.
like holding on to anger or resentment can actually make us sick.
Think about a time when you were really, really angry or hurt by someone. How did that feel in your body? Maybe your stomach was in knots, your shoulders were tense, you had a headache. Hay believes that holding on to these negative emotions creates, like, energetic blockages. And those blockages can manifest as physical or emotional disease.
So forgiveness is kind of like a detox for our system. It helps us release that toxic energy.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that forgiveness isn't about condoning the behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of carrying that negativity. It's about choosing peace over resentment.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think it leads nicely into the next big idea in the book, which is self-love.
Absolutely. Forgiveness kind of paves the way for self-love. When we forgive ourselves and others,
Yeah.
we create space for compassion and acceptance.
And Hay doesn't just, pay lip service to the idea of self-love. She really gets into the nitty-gritty of how to actually cultivate it. One of the things that struck me was her list of the positive effects of like loving and approving of yourself. It's like this incredible ripple effect that touches every aspect of your life. She writes, loving and approving of yourself will create a space of safety, trusting and deserving and accepting, creating organization in your mind, create better loving relationships in your life, attract a new job and a new and more loving place to live, and even enable your body weight to normalize. I mean, if that's not motivation to start practicing self-love, I don't know what
I
is.
love that quote. It
Yeah.
really highlights how self-love isn't just about, feeling good. It's the foundation for creating a life that is like truly aligned with your truest self.
Okay, so we've talked about forgiveness, self-love as like essential ingredients for healing, but how do we actually start to identify those limiting beliefs that might be holding us back from experiencing like all these amazing benefits?
Well, Hay has a very practical exercise for that in chapter 2. She calls it the I should exercise. It's so simple, yet so powerful.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this I should exercise.
Okay, well, it's all about bringing those unconscious shoulds to the surface, the ones that we've all kind of internalized. Hay suggests that, by identifying all the shoulds that are running through our minds, we can start to uncover the hidden beliefs that are driving them.
So instead of blindly following these shoulds, we can actually question where they came from and if they're even true for us anymore.
Precisely. For example, let's say you find yourself constantly thinking, I should be more successful.
Hay would suggest that this should is probably rooted in a deeper belief like, I'm not good enough as I am.
It's like those shoulds are little clues. That
Yeah.
can help us unlock the door to our subconscious beliefs. Exactly. And once we have that awareness, we can start to examine those beliefs with more objectivity.
But I imagine it's not always easy to like let go of those beliefs, even when we know that they're not serving us.
That's true. And Hay acknowledges this. She dedicates a whole chapter to the concept of resistance to change. She identifies common fears that hold people back, like the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown, even the fear of success.
Fear of success, that's an interesting one. Why would anyone be afraid of succeeding?
Sometimes success can bring up, uncomfortable feelings or challenges that we might not feel ready to face. It might mean stepping outside of our comfort zone, taking on more responsibility, or even facing, criticism or judgment from others.
It's like we're so used to operating within certain limits that even the thought of breaking free can feel scary.
Exactly. But recognizing those fears is the first step to overcoming them. And Hay offers this really powerful tool for moving through resistance. And it's a simple question. Is it true?
Okay, unpack that for me. What does she mean by is it true?
Well, in Chapter 4, Hay encourages us to question the absolute truth of our deeply held beliefs. She reminds us that most of our beliefs are simply thoughts that we've repeated over and over again until they feel like undeniable truths. But by asking ourselves, is it true? We create space for doubt, which allows us to begin dismantling those beliefs.
So it's like holding those beliefs up to a mirror
Yeah.
and seeing if they still hold up under scrutiny.
Yes. It's about challenging those assumptions that we've been carrying around for years, maybe even decades. And it's a process that requires honesty, self-compassion, and a willingness to let go of what's no longer serving us.
That makes sense. But how do we actually go about changing those beliefs once we've identified them? Is there like a specific formula or technique?
Hay offers several really powerful techniques for transformation. We were talking about identifying those deep-seated beliefs that might be holding us back, the ones that, whisper like, not good enough, or you can't do it.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to hear more about those techniques for transformation that you mentioned. How do we actually start to like shift those negative beliefs into more positive ones?
Well, one of Hay's most well-known techniques is the use of affirmations. She describes them as uh, powerful tools for, reprogramming our subconscious minds.
Affirmations. I've heard about them before, but to be honest, I've always been a bit skeptical. Isn't it just a form of like wishful thinking?
I understand the skepticism. It's,
Yeah.
it's not just about like repeating positive phrases and hoping for the best. It's about consciously choosing to focus on thoughts that align with, the reality that you want to create. Hay writes, affirmations that are used consistently become beliefs and will always produce results, sometimes in ways that we cannot even imagine.
Mhm.
It's like planting those seeds of positive change that we talked about earlier. Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. But how do you actually like use affirmations effectively? Do you just like say them out loud a few times a day and that's it?
It can be as simple as that, but there's also more specific techniques. For example, Hay suggests, writing affirmations down, repeating them while you're looking in the mirror, or even recording them and listening to them throughout the day.
So it's about repetition and really like immersing yourself in those positive statements.
Exactly. The more you expose your mind to these new, empowering thoughts, the more likely they are to like take root and replace those old limiting beliefs.
Hay even shares a personal story in chapter 9 about how she used affirmations to help her sell her possessions and move to California. She literally affirmed her way to a new life.
It's a great example of how affirmations can work in surprising and unexpected ways.
Mm.
Hay didn't have a concrete plan, but her consistent affirmations kind of opened up doors and opportunities that she hadn't even considered before.
It's amazing. Okay, so affirmations are one technique, but what about other tools for transformation?
Well, Hay also emphasizes the power of visualization. She encourages us to create like vivid mental pictures of ourselves living the life we desire, experiencing the joy, the success, the fulfillment that we crave.
So it's like creating a mental movie of your ideal reality and then stepping into that movie.
Exactly. It's about engaging all of your senses, sight, sound, touch, even smell and taste, to make that vision as real as possible. And the more you engage with that vision, the more your subconscious mind will start to believe that it's possible.
This reminds me of like athletes who use visualization techniques to improve their performance. They imagine themselves like executing a perfect shot or crossing the finish line first. Could it be that they're like tapping into a similar power?
Absolutely. There's a growing body of research that suggests that visualization can have a profound impact on, our physical and mental ability. It's like giving your brain a blueprint for success.
I love that analogy. So we've got affirmations, visualization, but I know there's more to Hay's toolbox.
Right. Another key element is the concept of letting go of the past. Hay believes that holding on to old hurts, regrets, resentments, it keeps us stuck in these negative patterns. And she offers various, exercises and techniques for releasing those emotional burdens.
Can you give an example of one of those exercises?
Sure. One simple yet effective technique is writing a letter to someone that you need to forgive,
Mm.
including yourself. Pour all of your feelings onto the page, even the anger and resentment. Then, when you're finished, burn the letter or tear it up. It's a symbolic act of release, allowing you to kind of let go of that emotional baggage.
It's like a ritual for cleansing your emotional space. I can see how that could be incredibly freeing.
Hay also talks about the importance of practicing gratitude. She believes that focusing on what we're grateful for kind of shifts our energy from lack to abundance.
That makes sense. When you're feeling grateful, it's hard to hold on to negativity at the same time.
Exactly. And gratitude doesn't have to be about big, dramatic things. It can be as simple as appreciating, a beautiful sunset, a
Yeah.
delicious meal, or a kind word from a friend.
So affirmations, visualization, letting go of the past, gratitude, those are some of the key techniques. But there's one more that we haven't talked about yet, mirror work.
Ah, yes, the infamous mirror work. This is where Hayes' teachings sometimes get a bit woo-woo for some people, but I think it's incredibly powerful. It's about facing yourself, literally, and learning to love and accept what you see.
I'll admit, the idea of standing in front of the mirror and saying, I love you to myself feels a bit awkward. Have you ever tried it?
It definitely takes practice,
Hmm.
but it can be transformative. Hayes suggests starting by, simply looking into your own eyes and acknowledging yourself, and then gradually work up to saying positive affirmations like, I am beautiful, I am worthy, or I love and accept myself exactly as I am.
That's a powerful practice in self-acceptance. But beyond the affirmations, what's the deeper purpose of mirror work?
Well, it's about confronting those negative self-perceptions that we often kind of project onto our reflection. It's about seeing ourselves with compassion and understanding, recognizing, the beauty and the light within.
It's almost like rewiring your brain to see yourself through a lens of love rather than judgment.
Precisely. And as you continue to practice mirror work, you'll start to notice those negative thoughts and self-criticisms kind of dissolving, making space for more self-love and acceptance.
That's so inspiring. It's like taking back your power from those inner voices that tell you you're not good enough.
Exactly. And as you cultivate more self-love and acceptance, you'll start to see that reflected in your outer world as well.
All of these techniques, affirmations, visualization, letting go of the past, gratitude, mirror work, they all seem to kind of point towards a deeper understanding of the mind-body connection. Is that something that Hay explores in the book?
Absolutely. In fact, her entire philosophy is based on the understanding that, our thoughts and emotions have a direct impact on our physical well-being.
This is where it gets really interesting for me. I've always been fascinated by the idea that our minds can, influence our bodies.
Hay is very clear in her belief that we create every so-called illness in our body. She writes, the body, like everything else in life, is a mirror of our inner thoughts and beliefs.
Okay, I need to hear more about this. So she's saying that, our physical symptoms are actually reflections of what's going on in our minds.
Exactly. She even provides a detailed list
Yeah.
of specific ailments and their corresponding probable mental patterns in chapter 15. It's fascinating stuff.
Give me some examples. What are some of the, connections that she makes between specific ailments and mental patterns?
Okay, well, for example, Hay links headaches to invalidating the self. Neck and throat problems, she suggests, could stem from, not speaking up for oneself or swallowing words.
I've definitely noticed that when I'm feeling stressed or holding back my true feelings, I tend to get tension headaches.
It's amazing how those patterns play out, isn't it? And Hay provides numerous examples like this, encouraging us to, explore the potential emotional roots of our physical symptoms.
But I also know that some people might be skeptical about this whole idea. They might say, come on, are you telling me that my thoughts are causing my arthritis or my cancer? How would you address that kind of skepticism?
Well, it's important to remember that Hay's work is not intended to be a substitute for, professional medical advice. It's about exploring a different perspective, a complementary approach to healing. That recognizes the powerful connection between our minds and bodies. It's about taking responsibility for our well-being on all levels, physical, mental, and emotional.
So it's not about denying the reality of physical illness, but rather acknowledging that our thoughts and emotions can play a role in either like exacerbating or alleviating those symptoms.
Exactly. It's about empowering ourselves to become active participants in our healing journey.
And I think that empowerment is a key theme in Hay's work. She really emphasizes that we have the power to heal ourselves, to create a life that is like filled with joy, love, and well-being.
She even goes so far as to say that every experience, even the ones that we might perceive as, negative or challenging, is ultimately a success because it offers an opportunity for learning and growth.
That's such a beautiful way to like reframe our experiences. It takes the pressure off of, having to be perfect and allows us to embrace the journey, even the messy parts.
And speaking of embracing the journey, Hay has this incredible affirmation in chapter 14 where she talks about the body's divine intelligence. It's really resonated with me. She writes, "In the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete. I recognize my body as a good friend. Each cell in my body has divine intelligence. I listen to what it tells me and know that its advice is valid. I am always safe and divinely protected and guided. I choose to be healthy and free. All is well in my world."
Wow, that's powerful. I love how she talks about the body as like a good friend, a
Yeah.
source of wisdom and guidance. It's so different from the way we often view our bodies as, something to be controlled, manipulated, or even punished.
Right. And that phrase divine intelligence, it
Mhm.
really speaks to the inherent wisdom of the body. It's like recognizing that there's a deeper intelligence at play,
Yeah.
even in the seemingly mundane functions of our physical being.
So if our bodies truly do possess this divine intelligence, what messages might they be trying to send us? And I'm still just thinking about all this, like, how our thoughts can really impact our reality and our health.
Pretty mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, like I'm starting to see things a little differently already.
Yeah, you start to notice those patterns.
Like maybe those little aches and pains aren't so random after all. Maybe they're trying to tell me something.
It's all about like becoming more aware, right? Tuning into those subtle messages.
Exactly. And I think that's what I find so empowering about Hayes' work. It's not about like being a victim of our circumstances. It's about recognizing that we have a choice.
Absolutely. We have the power to change our thoughts, our beliefs, and ultimately to create a different experience for ourselves.
And it's not about being perfect either, right? Like we're all going to have those days where we slip back into old
Of
patterns.
course, we're human. But the key is to be gentle with ourselves and to keep coming back to those core principles of self-love, forgiveness, and taking responsibility for our well-being.
Oh, okay. So as we wrap up our deep dive into You Can Heal Your Life, what are some of the key takeaways you hope listeners will walk away with?
Well, I think the most important thing is to remember that healing is possible. It might not happen overnight, but with consistent effort and a belief in our own innate healing power, we can transform our lives.
And Hay provides so many practical tools to help us along the way, right?
Yeah, from affirmations to visualization to letting go of the past and practicing gratitude. There's something in there for everyone.
I keep coming back to that affirmation we talked about earlier, the one about the body's divine intelligence.
Oh, yeah, the one in chapter 14.
It's so beautifully written. In the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete. I recognize my body as a good friend. Each cell in my body has divine intelligence. I listen to what it tells me and know that its advice is valid. I am always safe and divinely protected and guided. I choose to be healthy and free. All is well in my world. Every time I read it, I feel this sense of peace.
It's like a reminder to trust in the wisdom of our bodies,
Yeah.
to listen to those whispers of intuition, and to believe that we are, inherently worthy of love and healing. The most important thing is to approach your own healing journey with an open mind and a loving heart.
Okay. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just keep exploring, keep growing,
Yeah.
and never stop believing in your own infinite potential.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into You Can Heal Your Life. We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and empowering. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep those positive vibes flowing.